year-old overseas and said, you can't come back for 2 years, do you know what they would do when they came back to America? Almost every single one of them would kiss the ground the moment they stepped off the plane. One of the real problems we have is people in America have no idea how good they have it because they don't know how the rest of the world lives. And so if we actually forced our kids to understand something larger than themselves, I think 18 and 19-year-olds who went overseas and came back when they were 20, they would think that America, and they would understand that America is the greatest force for good ever.
That even includes your trips to Europe backpacking. I mean, tell them to enjoy 2 years of no ice in your water or your Coke, flat mattresses, and showers that spit at you, and you'll be welcoming yourself back to Orlando. You'll be excited to land.
Go somewhere, hot without air conditioning, and you're kissing the ground when you come back. Trust me.
All right, Clay Travis. Check him out at the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show and over at Outkick. Thank you, Clay.
Thanks, Will. Y'all have a good day.
All right, it's time now for Will of the People. All right, Joni says, Eagles versus Cowboys, first game of the season. We better start praying now, Will. I think you're right, Joni. I come into this season with all humility, no boastfulness. Paul says, thank you, Will Kane, for the discussion about Epic City today. We got you, Paul. And then Ramona says, great segment on pharma. Why can't we eliminate pharmacy benefit managers? They're imposing us, riching, and getting rich off of us. And now I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. A little hat tip for one of the greatest in broadcasting history. He's a man that dominated media in middle America for decades. Here is, quickly, Paul Harvey.
Now, the rest of the story.
It's up to you to help us come up with the idea of how to incorporate Paul Harvey, where we get to the heart of the matter from the heart of America on The Will Kane Show. Now the 5.
Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld along with Kaylee McEnany, Harold Ford Jr., Jesse Waters, and for her birthday, they had a stripper jump out of a cupcake. Dana Perino, the 5. President Trump wheeling and dealing before jetting off to the Middle East, giving a 1 hour and 8-minute presser where he riffed on everything from big pharma to getting a truce with China by cutting tariff rates for 90 days.
We achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue in the largest structural issues. They've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for unification and peace.
47 also signing an executive order directing drug makers to lower the prices of their medicines to align with what other countries pay, and kindly using his tubby friend to illustrate his point.
A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up. I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88, and in New York I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
So true. And Trump smacking the liberal media silly for making a stink over the prospect of Qatar gifting him a luxury jumbo jet to use as Air Force One after Boeing failed to deliver one on time.
What to say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're NBC fake news, right?
Why not?
Only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. When they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole.
I don't understand that sports analogy, Jesse. You can explain it to me. So the market is back up higher than, I think the first of the year, higher than Liberation Day. But we went through this conflict where the media was pulling out all the hair and Harold was pulling out what's left of his hair. Was it worth it? What did we get out of this?
Well, we're about to find out. Right now, there's a structural deal in place where we have 30 to 40% tariffs still in place on key defense sectors and key industries, autos, pharmaceuticals, steel, things like that. And that's what this was always about. Over the weekend, Greg, dumped illegally. I was actually getting that from ChatGPT.
I figured it was either that or Grok.
What was I doing, Greg, at 3 a.m. on Saturday?
I'd hate to find out.
Nothing good.
I was watching Scott Bessent announce this deal. Not because it's a great deal, which it is a great deal. I just don't want to hear this guy talk about tariffs anymore. I'm sick of it. He's been wrong this whole time. Trump says this is the most beautiful word in the world. I like deportation.
But, you know,
I like Doge.
Bessent also said that the other problem that we don't have now, China ignoring the trade laws because they didn't respect Biden.
So they admitted in Switzerland deal because Biden never enforced it.
Yeah.
He didn't get Mexico to help with the border.
All right.
He got ripped off with Brittany Griner. Remember that deal?
Yes, I do. But now we're talking about Joe Biden.
Sorry. It all goes back to Joe.
Harold, I know it's only 5:04:50, but in your face early because we sat here and argued about the stock market's never going to come back up. And here we are.
Well, first of all, it's good to be back around the table. Happy Mother's Day again, belated to everyone. What we argued and debated about was whether the three goals that the president laid out from the outset of this, which was three things, I believe. One, to reshore manufacturing in the United States. Two, to raise tremendous amounts of revenue. At one point, President Trump, I believe, said that this could raise upwards of $500 to $600 billion worth of revenue in a year, and over a 4-year period. We can do the math as he was talking about Doge. 4, reduce our reliance on China and supply chains outside of the country. Jesse, to your point about Adam Smith, reducing our ability, or I should say, preventing nations from dumping goods in America that would allow our domestic manufacturing to grow and to prosper. That is one of the primary reasons, if not the reason you impose tariffs. We don't make the things that we are blocking China from bringing in, or for that matter, other places. I wish we did more of it. In fact, that's what we
steel.
No, but we ought to be prepared.
We don't make automobiles.
We do, but the parts and automobiles come from all across the world, Jesse.
No, I understand that. That's why we're trying to protect them, so China can't dump them.
Understand, but if we were making them, you have to be making them.
Okay, so what about the $5 trillion investment announcements that have come in for manufacturing?
They're great.
$5 trillion investment commitments for high-tech manufacturing.
The most important word
automobiles, pharmaceuticals, aerospace, defense,
But Jesse, they're commitments. We don't have the workforce. We don't have the factories. We don't have the capacity. Dude, I love it. But the truth of the matter, Adam Smith was right, and you should read it more closely. Finally, as we think about, and I don't mean to be critical, but as we think about
I think we agree that Adam Smith was right.
We do. And so much so that we're not even close to what he was talking about.
Adam Smith on the show.
We should.
But understand what happened, Greg. He blinked on tariffs. That's why the markets come back. But the challenge is we have punished supply chains. We've made it difficult for small and big businesses to forecast how they're going to invest, whom they're going to hire, and set prices. I hope I'm wrong, but you know who validates what I'm saying? You ought to get ChatGPT to ask you what Adam Smith said about setting prices.
So you're smarter than Scott Bessent, and you're smarter than Lutnick and Donald Trump.
No, you know,
and all the people that are cheering the trade deal, they're wrong?
But they're saying they love the fact that we removed ourselves from a tariff war with China. I'm not saying I'm smarter.
We're still at war. We have 30 to 40% tariffs. We have a fentanyl tariff.
I'm not saying I'm smarter than Scott Bessent. I'm not saying I'm smarter than any people, but I do know one thing. I don't work for Donald Trump, so I can tell you what I believe is a fact. Him today.
You do kind of when you're on the 5.
him blinking on tariffs and China blinking on tariffs has helped the market come back and give us some uncertainty.
We're going to have to get you to a room. Kaylee, you're analyzing for 2, so go ahead.
I am. Yes, I am. A big one growing. Thank you. You know, Harold, there are things that we need to make. And I know this because I was in the White House in 2020. And I was there when our strategic national stockpile was depleted. And Trump said the cupboards were bare. And we didn't have ventilators. And we didn't have N95 respirators. And he had to go like this and just come up with them to save the country and save lives. And Scott Bessent, one of the things people missed about what he said at 3 a.m. when most of us were sleeping, Greg, maybe you were up, you have a baby, is he said, I want to reshore critical supplies like during COVID. It's a big win for the American people. But look, you know, I think the bigger picture here is when I think about the Sunday to Monday turnaround, like I'm watching John Hamm last night, this new show,
Yeah.
you know.
Friends and Neighbors.
Yeah. It's a little hot for my liking. But nevertheless, I'm not reading Adam Smith like Jesse on my weekend. But I'm there in Delaware. And every day, if you go all the way back to Tuesday with the Houthi and the UK agreement,